Hi folks, my name is Rithvik Chandrashekar and I am the nerd of the class, so to speak, and constantly talking, and I think that's the best introduction I can give for myself. So I'm here to talk about what got me into technology, and it's kind of ironic, right? I am into technology, but I'm pursuing a degree in finance and analytics, which is a BA MBA. So what got me into tech, and does tech hold something for me in the future? So I come from a very coveted family, and while it is a positive, there's a lot of pressure behind that, right? So my dad was from IIT Delhi. He did computer science from there. My mom is a professor, and my sister, well, she's a gold medalist, in law school in NUJS, etc., etc. Um, I was the black sheep of the family. I you couldn't get me to sit down to study. You couldn't get me to sit down. Period. Right. I was always out playing, and I was a very sporty person back then. I used to go play cricket. I used to run around. I used to drive those little cars and those little bikes that my parents used to get me and everything. But when I was 15, my father introduced me to not actually 15. When I was, I think, about 9, 10, 11 years old, my father went to Singapore and he got the first PlayStation 3 as part of his agreement with IBM and, developing the PlayStation, right? That was the first time I touched the pioneering technology. Back then, I was not allowed to use a computer, I was not allowed to use a phone. My parents were very worried about the digital influence. PlayStation 3. Around what? 500, 600 people in Bangalore had it, and somehow my father had it. It was very interesting. For the first time, I touched the joystick, I touched the controllers, and I was playing a game. And I was like, wow, like, whoa, I'm into it. And then my question started, how does this work? I want to explore more about technology, right? So I used to play these really cool like games. Like I was very into racing simulators. So back then we had something known as Gran Turismo, and only the prologue came out. I was playing that heavily, right? But I started asking myself questions. I started asking questions as to, if I press the toggle switch left, how does it really turn left? Or how the hell is this, controller vibrating, right? And that's where my tech like genesis started. And I have to credit my father a lot, because every time I had a question pertaining to technology or even life, he'd answer it always. First time I asked him, how does the internet work? And he explained it using family politics and drama on how it keeps revolving, right? So yeah, and then my technology, I think the second phase of how my technology or my passion toward technology grew is when I was in final year of schooling, right, 12th standard, and I started, reading up more about how applications work, on how the network works, how ERP systems, and how is the world interconnected, right? How does Facebook work? How do these games work? I had so many questions, like I couldn't answer them. Like it just kept on going and going and going. So, but slowly I just kept answering the questions, right? And then coming into college, I learned how to code in second year. Using Udemy, YouTube videos. So I learned Java, I learned Python, and then it grew. And then I took a break, right? Then around third year end, I had an idea, right? An idea for a startup, for something just to create. It was, I felt like I could solve a human problem. Like for obvious reasons, I can't express what that human problem is, but it was a human problem. It's a very human problem that I was annoyed with, and I believed technology could solve it. Right? It was technology that could only solve it, and we could automate unnecessary redundant tasks. Then Chat GPT came along, AI came along, and no code came along, and I was like, the technology is growing at such a rapid pace, and soon things like renewing my ID card will be done automated. Soon, if I tell AI to say that, oh, could you buy a couple of mangoes from Reliance for me, it'll do it, it'll order it. And I feel like now is the time to be in tech, not as a coder, but as a business professional, right? As saying that, what, let me go out, let me go into the world, and let me say, that's a problem, that's a human problem. Okay, for example, if I look at Bangalore traffic, I'm like, every day in day out there's people getting stuck in traffic, right? People are not able to reach out at home on time. And people of our generation who are technology interested but management focused can just look at that and say, that's a problem, and I'm going to solve it using technology. That's why we should be in tech, right? And this was the final phase, at least in my learning stage right now, where I can say that let's go. Let's keep technology. Let's learn technology from a very basic angle. Let's see how the code works. Let's see what technology exists, and let's see what problems exist, and let's see if we can solve them. If we can, combine and find a common point to solve them, right? So I would say, for anyone who is looking, who is probably like getting into first year college, or who wants to get into college, right? Don't beat yourself up. If you don't know how to code, it's okay. If you don't know what some of the technology does, it's okay. You learn it. What's more important is that every day when you interact with this world, try to see what bugs you. Try to see the problems, right? Because I can tell you, every great startup, every great company that has been formed has always been formed with a human-centric problem at its heart, right? So I implore you to look for problems in life. It can be solved by technology, it can be solved by leadership, it can be solved by many things. But go out in the world and find problems. Don't just sit. Just go and find problems. Stop staying worried about what I don't and don't know.